Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders would like to welcome brand lead at Aqualibra, Malcolm McDermott. So welcome, Malcolm.
Thanks. Cheers. Nice to be on.
So I'd like to firstly congratulate you on all your achievements. So can you share with us how your career started and where your passion and inspiration for sustainability came from or has come from?
Thanks. Well, I've worked in marketing for my whole career. I have predominantly worked for drinks companies, all different types. But actually, my passion from sustainability comes from the personal side of my life. So I used to do rowing to a decent level, did a lot of sport, and you spend a lot of time. I know it's not an uncommon story, but you spend a lot of time in the outdoors, out on lakes, specifically where I was on the Thames in London. And you see the impact of when we get things wrong.
Yes.
And I think from that has always been an underlying drive to want to, where I can in my own career, to help to push towards more sustainable options and things like that. But also from a point of view that makes sense for how people actually work in their own lives and things like that. I'm quite a firm believer in business as a force for good. And I think that the most truly sustainable options always have this underlying sort of, they've got to be profitable, they've got to work for businesses and things like that. And so
Yes.
that really has been something that certainly over the last couple of years, where I've seen the potential for this kind of thing to actually take root and to happen, has just built.
That's amazing. So, in terms of sustainability, which is obviously a very big headline at the moment, perhaps more so than ever. So, can you give the audience some background on what Aqualibra does as a company and what makes Aqualibra so innovative in leading the way in terms of sustainability?
Absolutely. So at Aqualibra, at a fundamental level, we exist to provide tasty, healthy hydration that is also sustainable. And as part of that, we've set ourselves a mission to become the world's most sustainable water brand. Um,
Amazing. I love
so
that.
yeah, so we're owned by Britvic, who are a large soft drinks company in themselves, and their sustainability strategy is focused on how you look beyond traditional packaging in order to deliver that. So we exist as a business unit called Beyond the Bottle, and what we try to do is to develop new tech that will basically deliver a range of new healthy drinks, options that consumers are asking for from the liquid side of things,
Yeah.
but in formats that don't require the packaging. So that's where we kind of prove this through. So the strategy comes to life in our innovations. And at a base level, that means providing high quality water that actually tastes consistent, and
Yes.
that's what a bottle of water does, is offer a consistent taste of water wherever you are. So we do that with filtration technology and things like that, and then move beyond that with things like the flavor tap. So the flavor tap is an innovation that we launched last year. It basically takes all the component parts of a drink that would normally be added to water in a production facility or something else like that, and does that at the point of dispense.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and what we can do with that as well, because we're adding individual ingredients, is actually use less. So
Yes.
no preservatives or things like that. We just use natural flavorings and whatever else, which in itself has been, a couple of technology breakthroughs in order to do that. Actually just helps us to move one step further on that sustainability journey. But I think that the main thing on this for us as well, and another thing that makes us innovative, is the way that we approach it. So we're a consumer-led business. We know that you can't make the change happen if you're not delivering something that fits into the way that consumers live their lives, and that's how you can drive behavior change. So for us, we put this into workplaces, we put it into retail, but we're very much set up to kind of experiment and to find those ways that consumers will be able to interact in their own lives. So if it's not a tap, we use aluminium packaging or things like that, and just providing those simple changes that consumers can use.
Yeah, that's incredible. So Aqualibra is one of the few organizations looking at sustainable and tangible solutions, as you've mentioned previously. from both sides in terms of waste. So offering better innovation or innovative distribution solutions for the actual drink, and partnering and working with technology companies like Grand Marine Technology. You had an incredible launch recently at Canary Wharf. So can you share with us more about this and why it is such an important initiative and long-term mission for Aqua Libra?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I just said, our vision is to become the world's most sustainable water brand.
Yes.
I think that what that means is that we can't just look at our own impact, and we can't look at, the side of the story which we're addressing, which is, removing the need for plastic packaging, basically.
Yes.
What we want to do is look beyond that and say, well, actually, there are environmental plastic problems out there. That is something that we want to start to address. And we want to do that in a real way that A, actually makes an impact, and B, sort of brings it to life for consumers, because that, again, will help to bring through the behavior change that we need to make. So Grand Marine have been fantastic in the partnership that we've had so far, and Canary Wharf has been the first thing that we've worked on together.
Yes.
And what we brought to life there was essentially both sides of where we see the future for, how you move beyond plastic packaging and go plastic free. So in Marks and Spencer's in Canary Wharf, we had a flavor tap. And then in the docks, we have the Waste Shark, which is going around and helping to keep the docks clean there of plastic waste and things like that. It's a surprising amount that blows into the docks on a daily
Yes.
basis. When we were there, it was particularly windy, so there was quite a lot of it's not just plastic bottles, it's building waste and things like that blows in. But I think for us, Grand Marine are a business who are based on technology and innovative ways to solve these problems.
Yes.
And that's a core value that we share as well, because that's why we're set up too. And I think that in any of these sustainability partnerships, it's just how you can get the real work done together. And I think for us, that's where this works so well. And I think, it's the latest thing that we've done to sort of try to bring through the message of our sustainability ambitions and things like that around plastic waste. But I certainly think that there's going to be more of that to come, and
Yes.
go where the problem is, bring it to life, show people that there is a potential for a future without single-use plastic.
That's amazing. Is your vision to expand upon that in terms of your partnership with Grand Marine? Or, are you planning on other avenues for
Yeah,
cleanups?
absolutely. So I think for us, Grand Marine is one element of where
Yes.
we could go. I think that the Waste Sharks have quite a large local impact where they're placed, which is brilliant. We're also working with other partners, so either champions of businesses of Force for Good. So we work with the Blue Earth Summit, who are based in Bristol, and again they shine a light on small startups, things like that, and raise investment for small businesses aimed at essentially taking propositions, making business sense, and sort of again driving that consumer behavior. So we work on those elements, but also
Yes.
go beyond that as well to really sort of work with other partners who will help us to address the underlying behavior changes that need to happen. So whether it is kind of we manufacture taps and things like that, you need things to put drinks in.
Yes.
So the manufacturers of vessels or things like that to actually do that, finding the right partners for that is a key part of what we do, and trying to create some of the new ways in which we can just keep bringing that story to life. Because I think for us, doing things in isolation, it's all well and good, but we don't just want this stuff to be a lovely PR story, which it was. There has to be something tangible at the core of it.
Yeah. And also have like longevity to be able to keep going. So the importance of companies to address, obviously, again, from both sides in terms of rubbish that ends up in our waterways, and how companies partnering with tech-based solutions like the Waste Shark are so incredibly significant. So how is it vitally critical that big corporations start to follow the lead in such initiatives and tangible and visible solutions?
Yeah, I mean, investing in something like Waste Shark really is a fantastic way to make a real difference. I think that, as a society, we have some pretty big environmental challenges. The reality is that no one can solve them alone.
No, of course.
I think that's something that we've been on that journey on as well, which is that actually we want to hero the partners we work with just as much as ourselves, because
Yes.
we're working to solve a problem together. So let's talk about that together.
Yes.
And I think what we want to do is find other partners, because people have their own specific areas that they're working on, and where you can join that up, that's really going to be one of the ways we can actually move the dial on sustainability.
Yes.
And I think the other thing as well is that true partnerships come about where both sides bring something real to the party, and
Yes.
I think for us, the fact that Ram Marine are about water quality, removing waste, and again, we're removing the potential for waste, there's just such a natural fit there, and that's something that we look for in all of our partners.
So, as Aquilibra is part of Britvic, as you mentioned, can you share with my audience some history on Britvic and how it was founded in the UK in the 1930s, and how has it expanded internationally over the years? So, is it predominantly focused in the UK, or is it something that you're expanding internationally?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Britvic actually started out back in the 19th century as the British Vitamin Products Company. And it was founded by a guy called Mr. Rawlings, who basically started making vitamin drinks and tonics. And the reason he did that was he wanted to create an affordable source of vitamins for people whose diet lacked those nutrients. So
Okay.
that's where it came from, the juices and these little tonics and things like that, that were helping to improve people's health and well-being. Since then, we've been on a journey. So Britvic actually was formally named Britvic in 1971. Since then, we've gone on to become we're a FTSE 250 business, and we have been growing internationally. So that's really happened within the last 20 years. So we expanded into Ireland. That was our first major expansion, and we have brands like Club Orange over there and things like that, which work for us. One of the key parts of what we do as a business is in something we call flavor concentrates. So things like Robinson squash and things like that. So we also acquired a business in France called Tesset. So it's a French syrup brand. And actually, if you think about syrups as, probably one of the earliest ways of condensing flavor and then adding water at the point you drink it,
Yes.
it's quite an interesting place to be. But actually, that all came from, product quality. So that's a French brand with a really rich history. So that goes back to the 1700s, where the guy who founded it basically created a distillery in the Alps. Again, since then, we've expanded further. So we're now in Brazil.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we have two key brands out there actually, which are both heavily again in the flavor concentrates and things like that market. So Maggi and De Fruta. And what we're doing beyond that now is starting to take our brands internationally, the ones that we're developing in the UK and moving them out, or again from other areas. So we've moved to Serre globally, out from France. We have our global premium arm now, which is we have the London Essence mixer brand. That's something that's particularly close to my own heart, because we developed it's the first premium mixers that come on draft in outlets. So delivering the kind of experience that you would get from a premium tonic, which up until now has only come in a tiny little 200ml bottle, which needs to be shipped around, and all the kind of stuff that goes with that.
Yes.
And we're now actually pouring those in over 1,000 outlets. And what we've seen is that consumers are receptive to the idea that premium soft drinks can come without the packaging, which has always been something that we've had to sort of push hard to move beyond.
Yes.
That's a little bit of an example of the international expansion we've got going on.
So then what is the ultimate vision for Britvic and for Aquilibra as a company, and what are the core focuses for the company? Because obviously you've got a lot of things going on, but like fundamentally, what is the core focus for that?
So for us, we do want to make, a net positive contribution to society. That for us means we want to have caring and valuable people. And value our people. We really do put a lot into our planet and performance and things like that, strategies within the business, but we value all of those things equally. So When we build our marketing plans, for instance, we recently launched a new marketing framework called Wow Me 2.0. The way in which we bring that to life internally actually puts sustainability and our people, planet, performance, that kind of stuff, all on the same tiering. So when we're making decisions, we're evaluating everything against how it affects those things, and we always consider against any commercial decision that we make what will actually be best for people and planet, because actually ultimately those are the two things that our drinks serve and everything that we're about.
Yes.
And the other thing as well is that we lead everything with quite a high degree of actual insights built from data and the evidence that backs all of that up.
Yeah, that's so critical. Data is the most important.
Yes, exactly. I think there is, and you know, I work in marketing. There's a big tendency for people to sort of have opinions and gut feels and things like that. But I think that when you're talking on a scale that we do and the drinks we do and things like that, it's really, really important to be guided by what the facts are, what the evidence is, and really carefully sort of like evaluate each decision against all of the elements that you need to take into account.
Yes.
But I think the first step on that process is just to lift all those decisions up so that you're actually having those conversations, that
Yes.
you're not just focused, say, on the performance data, you're also bringing in, okay, well, what are the environmental impacts of this commercial decision and things like that, and having those conversations.
Yes.
That comes through in our packaging strategy as well. So that really falls under, you know, something we call, you know, we've got healthier people, healthier planet, and it comes under the healthier planet agenda. And I think that's about trying to make sure that packaging doesn't become waste. And as we've said, you know, we're doing these large scale experiments in areas like beyond the bottle and seeing how we move people beyond traditional packaging use. But it
Yeah.
also means using aluminium, you know, more expansively and things like that.
Yes.
With the, you know, metal recycles forever. But again, in areas where, you know, because we've got different things that we can try as well to move people on the journey. So an example of that is we have another work stream called flavoring billions of water occasions. And as I said earlier on, one of the best ways in order to increase the sustainability of soft drinks is actually to get the water at the end source and move the flavor around, not the drink.
Yes.
And you know, we innovate in that space as well. So on Robinson Squash, we do tiny little super concentrated versions of our squash that take, you know, something the size of a drink and puts, you know, around 30 serves into this tiny little bottle, which, you know, again, it's just helping to move along the journey, because I think fundamentally we do believe that reducing is certainly the, you know, the first thing to go to and what we should be trying to do.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So, what would you say some of your biggest lessons have been within your career? And I'm sure you've had multiple, but does anything stand out for you in particular?
That's a really interesting one. I think for me, you know, one of the things that I've learned going through my career is that creating genuine change is not easy.
No.
I think anyone who has either created a new business or even sort of like made a change within an organization that can be stuck in their ways has probably got the battle scars to to show that. But I think for me, the way that I found about, you know, how to address that is, you know, you just need to start with the evidence. Go back to, okay, how can I build even a small evidence base? And normally that requires you to take some risks and you know, just give things a go and see how it works. So I think I'm certainly quite far along the don't ask for permission, just get forgiveness kind of.
Yes.
I think if you can get quick wins and you can start to build small proof points that validate your vision, ultimately where you want to get to and the change that you want to make wherever it is, that's when you can actually start to convince others and bring them on the journey. I
Yes.
think that's probably, as I say, the biggest lesson for me is, you know, it's great to have a vision, but you need to sort of like work out what are those small steps that you can do to bring others on that journey, you know, and actually create the wave of change you're trying to.
Yeah, absolutely. So that leads me obviously to there are obviously a lot of companies that talk a big game when it comes to sustainability, but
Mm.
not much action. So what do you believe makes you more competitive and sets you apart from your competitors in the corporate space, especially when it comes to the bureaucracy and politics, and obviously visible, tangible solutions. So can you give us any examples?
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. So I think, I've already mentioned a little bit around sort of our own sustainability practices and kind of, we have it under this healthier people, healthier planet framework.
Yeah.
That does go through our whole business, but really we see it as fundamental to our business resilience.
Yes.
So ultimately, a business is about delivering value to your stakeholders. And for us, it's about building a company to be proud of.
Yes.
That's why, when I said earlier on, this is ultimately about building a resilient business for the future. Um,
Yes.
we're in an interesting position right now, which is the fact that we are growing. We are pushing out into different markets. So us with Aqua Libra moving that into a sort of a water position and taking on the established water brands, that's a highly incremental position for our business, which is fantastic. And we're setting that up in a way that is driven from sustainability and everything else. And hopefully that kind of shows that, when I say that we do give our kind of our goals around planet and people equal weighting to commerciality, like that's because we see there as genuine value in this for the future. And the value of where branded soft drinks are in the future, that's where that will come from, I think.
Yes.
And ultimately a brand is a mark of trust. A brand is something that consumers have in their lives. They buy them for various reasons, but whether it is just for trust or it's a status symbol or whatever else. But I think the values that those brands display have to align with what consumers want as well. So it's really
Yes.
important that we do that. As I said earlier on, our marketing processes all have this as a central role. And as well, I think, we do have a variety of pack formats. We do have quite a big job, I think, to do on consumer education. We want to create a circular economy for packaging where it does exist.
Yes.
And I think, actually promoting healthier options, promoting more sustainable options, things like that. Also, the pack labeling and things like that we do to sort of communicate to people and make it easier for them to understand how to recycle things.
Yeah.
Health has been a really big focus for us on all of this. Like it's, if you talk about what we do, actually 96% of our innovation last year was actually low or no calorie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And all of that stuff is always taken through like what's the best for the market. So if you take London Essence, for instance, which is a premium tonic brand, the entire range of drinks there is naturally light. So it's just something that the brand is, rather than kind of any sort of detraction. Like it's a choice that they have made in order to make the best mixes, and it's something that just goes through the whole thing. We also own, a plant-based side of things. So Plenish is a brand that we're doing a lot of work on at the moment, and helps us to move the business into those more resilient areas where we think that the market is going to grow in the future as well. I think that hopefully gives you a little bit of an example of sort of what we're doing to address it. I think the bureaucracy piece is another really
Yeah, that's such a challenge.
it is. I think any larger business struggles with that. It can be driven internally, it can be driven by large customers. There's always a sort of a sense of inertia to how you can enforce these changes and things like that. I think
Yes.
that there's also a sense that, certainly out in the market, there are plenty of examples where businesses have got it wrong and
Mm.
greenwashing or whatever else like that. I think for us, that's why, when we want to do things truly differently, we set things up in that way. So Aqua Libra is its own business unit under Beyond the Bottle, because we recognize that, actually creating that sort of change needs its own structure and needs to have the dedication in order to be able to do that.
Yes.
You can then sort of like start to operate your business in ways that best fit how it needs to work for that. And the models are different sometimes, and just how it all comes through is I think the approach you have to take, because otherwise it is just lip service, which isn't which isn't where you want to be.
Absolutely. So this leads me to the final two questions. So what would you say some of your biggest career highlights have been, and what legacy would you like the company to lead, and how would you like to personally be remembered?
So yeah, no small questions. So for me, some of the biggest highlights of my career to date, two probably jump to mind. I think number one was the first real example that I got of in marketing, when you talk about, or when you have a true story or a genuine thread that goes through something, and the power of that. And I think it was there's a campaign that we ran as a round the world cycle race, actually, with a guy, and absolutely zero budget, kind of ended up going out myself to do filming and like all this kind of stuff to like stitch something together. But it was something that we had built a story from the ground up about, okay, well, why is he doing this, the motivations behind it, the kind of why was our product even involved from the outset. And he actually ended up going around the world in like 91 days or something, so incredibly fast time. Yeah, on a bicycle. And I think it was one of these things where the story really caught fire at the time. And it was just something that had this extended period where people were talking about this thing that was happening, and for me, that's been something that I've always tried to bring into not just the communication side of marketing, but the full marketing mix, in terms of, well, actually, if you have a genuine connection and a core of whatever you're doing, how do you actually bring that through and bring it to life? And then I think the other achievement as well, like, I guess, highlight for me would be getting the London Essence freshly infused to market. So that was our first foray into doing drinks without packaging. The brief on that was essentially, can we bring the most premium category of soft drinks into a place where you can deliver a drink in a hospitality outlet where consumers tend to be at their most demanding? Can you bring that in with a proposition that eliminates the packaging? And we had quite a lot of challenges. Obviously, we had a fairly big global event that happened 2 years ago, and nowhere in my risk register did I have that the entire hospitality industry would close down on literally the week we were supposed to be launching the proposition.
Oh no, that's crazy.
We'd spent 2 years of development time and sort of like all this kind of stuff. We'd done all the background stuff to know that it was going to work, and it was just about to roll it out in anger. And then it was literally the week of the UK lockdowns when we
no, that's hectic.
So anyway, we're now in a position where that's now in over 1,000 outlets, and they're premium outlets that are starting to move beyond packaging and starting to see what's possible. So I think for me, because that is the first proof point that you can deliver branded drinks to consumers in a format that comes without packaging, it feels like a real highlight for me. I think as well, the other bit for me is then, in terms of like, where would we like to leave things, is hopefully it's come through. I'm a real passionate believer that behavior change has to be as easy as possible, and it has to be genuine. I'm all about trying to find the ways in which, because I always believe that you need to be very choiceful when you're asking consumers to make a behavior change. You need to know exactly, it's not just like, oh, change this and use a refill bottle. Actually,
yeah, of course,
a lot of things that consumers have to do in their lives in order to do that. So you either have to go out and buy a refill bottle, or you have to remember it, or you have to refill points are, and the refill points to serve drinks that you actually want. So I think for me, that where I'd love to be is that in a position with Aqua Libra, where we have the first water brand that has truly moved beyond packaging, and actually does that from a point of trust for consumers, and in the fact that consumers know that wherever they see the brand, they're going to get a water that's always of a certain quality, because that's ultimately what a bottled water brand is doing. It just, in my view, that doesn't have to come from a Pacific Island or whatever else. That delivered by technology wherever you are. within that as well. So as I said, if we can do that, we'll deliver that behavior change. And I think that, it feels like a lofty goal, but I think that it's something that is achievable if we do it in the right way.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And then
Cheers.
how for you would you like to personally be remembered?
Yeah. Really good point. I think, to be honest, I've always been someone, as a marketer, you create brands,
Yeah,
and you establish them. So I think, in my personal life, that's what I do as well. So, I have my
yes,
aperitif brand and things like that. I think the thing for me is I would like to have some of those brands that stand for the values that I hold personally exist and thrive. I think that those are the ways in which you can, leave a legacy that is enduring, because I'm not too bothered about people necessarily remembering myself, but if
yes.
the brands that I do work on help to move our society into a better place, then I think that would be absolutely brilliant.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Malcolm. And if people want to connect with you or connect with the brand, what are the best places to do so?
Yes, absolutely. So the best way to connect with Aqualibra and find out more about the flavors app is to go to our website, which is just aqualibra.com. And if anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, that's more than welcome to do so. I'm always open to talk about drinks, impact, sustainability, things like that.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we can have you back in the future to see where you are in your journey. So thank you so much.
Lovely. Thanks, Karen.